I've spent years helping families get their tech under control. Parental controls, screen time, family tech agreements, smart home setups. I've made videos all about it. And I want to be honest with you today because I have made almost every single mistake that I warn you about. I know how to check my son's browsing history. I've shown thousands of you exactly how to do it. And I have let months go by without actually checking it. I made a promise about Discord that I knew in my gut I shouldn't keep, and I kept it anyway. I threatened to take away all of the technology because of poor grades. More than once, I did not follow through. So today, no tutorials, no step-by-step guides, just an honest conversation about the tech decisions I've made as a parent that I would do differently. And I think you might see yourself in a few of these as well. Now, before we get into it, if you're here because you want honest, judgment-free tech advice for your family, not the fear-based stuff, not the doom and gloom, but real practical guidance from a parent who's actually living this, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. That's exactly what we do here at Family Tech. So let's get into it. So when I started thinking about all of my tech regrets, I noticed something. They fell into one of three patterns. First one I'm calling the knowledge gap. I knew what I was supposed to do, and the ball just dropped. The second is the exhaustion trap. I knew the right call, but making it was so much harder than not making it. And the third is the commitment trap. I made a promise or a threat that I couldn't walk back. So let's go ahead and start with the knowledge gap. So this first one is almost embarrassing to admit because I have literally made videos about keeping your parental controls up to date. Before a family trip a while back, I went in and intentionally relaxed some of the controls on my son's devices. I mean, we were going to be in a different time zone, so the time frame had to change and a few other things. So honestly, it was a reasonable call. We were on vacation, different context, different rules. I get it. Here's where I dropped the ball. We came home, life resumed, schoolwork, schedules, everything, and I never went back to check that those settings had been tightened back up. Now here's the thing. The system didn't fail. The tools were right there. I just didn't go back. Months went by before I caught it. And the only reason I caught it is because I happened to be in settings for something completely unrelated. And then I noticed, oh, that's right. I have not gone back and tightened those restrictions back up. So if you set up parental controls and you haven't looked at them recently, go ahead and do that this week. Not because something is definitely wrong, but because you deserve to actually know if what you've got set in place is working. Okay, this one I feel like I have to own completely. If you've ever asked me or anyone else who does what I do, what's one thing every family should have around technology? The answer is a family tech agreement or a family technology use contract. It's a written document, house rules, what the devices are for, what they're not for, what happens when the rules get broken. I created one. It's available for you to download on my website. I know exactly what should go in this contract. But do I actually have one in place? I do not. And the main reason is because I just felt like I never really needed the contract in place because I've had the conversations about everything that is in the contract. We just never sat down and actually agreed to it and signed it. And you know what that creates is that every rule is always up for renegotiation because there's nothing concrete to go back to. That's not what you said, or I didn't know that was a rule. You never told me that when I've told you that about 1,000 times. And the worst part is sometimes they're right because I never wrote it down. How can I be sure if I ever actually communicated it clearly? So that one's on me. All right, let's get to bucket 2. And that's the exhaustion trap. I know how to check browsing history. I've made content showing you exactly how to do it on the iPhone, on Chrome, on parental controls dashboards. I know every method. Do I check it consistently? Not really. And it's not that I forget that I could. It's that it falls off the list. Life fills in. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's right. I haven't checked on the browsing history in a while. There's dinner, there's homework and work and everything else. And check the browsing history just keeps sliding down the priority list. This isn't a knowledge problem. I have the knowledge. This is a follow-through problem. Knowing how to do something and actually building the habit of doing it consistently, those are two completely different things. So I let it go too long, and by the time I do check in, I'm not catching things early. I'm catching them late, which is the opposite of what the whole setup was designed to do. Now, this next one, I think about every time my family's together. This is actually, I'm recording this the 4th of July weekend. My brother is in town. We're spending a lot of time with family. And at some point, I honestly couldn't tell you when it started. It just became easier to let my kids bring a device to family get-togethers. They get bored. They don't have anybody to talk to. They want to be doing something else. They want to stay home. So I'm like, fine, bring the tablet, bring the laptop, bring whatever you want, bring your phone. And I genuinely knew that handing them a device meant that they were going to be buried in it instead of actually being present with the family. But the alternative was dealing with the boredom. I have nothing to do. Can we go? I don't want to be here anymore. The restlessness, the asking every 20 minutes, how much longer? And in the moment, the device is just easier sometimes. I remember sitting at a holiday dinner, looking around the table, and my son was completely checked out, headphones in, not part of a single conversation. And the uncomfortable truth is, I'm the one that made that happen. I was the one who said it was okay to bring it. It was easier in the moment, and I'm not sure it was worth it in the long run. Okay, now we've gotten to bucket 3. These last 2 are the ones I've thought about the most. So my son wanted Discord. He was 12 years old, and if you're not familiar, Discord is a messaging and voice chat platform. I have a whole video about what Discord is, how it's used, and kind of the parental controls that you can associate with it. So definitely check out that video. But it's really popular with gamers and kids his age, and he wanted it badly. I wasn't ready to say yes. Discord's terms of services, you're supposed to be 13. I was able to fall back on the you can't have it until you're 13 premise. But my gut told me that 13 probably wasn't even the right age for him to have it as well. So at some point, I told him he could have it when he turned 13 because that's the terms of services conditions. You have to be 13 to have the account. And he took that seriously. He put it on his Google Calendar, an actual calendar appointment months out. Like I saw on his birthday, Discord. Like, great. So excited for him. And here's what I should have done. I should have gone back to him and said, hey, I've been thinking about it and I'm not comfortable with this yet. I'm taking that back. I didn't. Day came, he showed me the calendar notifications, and I said yes. Not because my thinking had changed, not because I felt like he was ready, but because the promise was already out there and I couldn't figure out how to walk it back without feeling like I was completely breaking his trust. Now, I'm not here to tell you that Discord is a terrible platform. That's a whole different conversation. Again, I have a video all about it. What I'm saying is that I handed over something I wasn't confident about, not because my judgment changed, but because I'd made a commitment and backing out felt impossible. If I could go back today, I would have had that uncomfortable conversation. I know I said this, I'm changing my mind. That's on me. Here's why. It's a harder conversation, but it's also the right one. And in the future, I would not promise a date that something would open up, whether it's an app, getting them their first phone, whatever it is. Instead, set a date where you will revisit the discussion. That's what I should have done. And if I could do it over again, I absolutely would handle it that way. And then there's this one. At some point, my son's grades slipped. And in the moment, I said, if your grades don't come up, I am taking all of your technology away. When I said it, I meant it, I think. But somewhere between saying it and actually having to follow through, I didn't. It was too disruptive. It would have impacted homework. There would have been negotiation and conflict. And honestly, it just felt more than I wanted to deal with at the moment. So I let it go. And here's the problem with that. Kids are very, very good at remembering the difference between a real consequence and an empty one. Every tech threat I made after that had a little less weight to it because he'd already seen that this one didn't really stick. The threat was real when I made it. The follow through wasn't. And that gap between what you say and what you do is exactly where kids figure out what the actual rules are. So I'm not telling you that to make you feel guilty if you've done the same thing. I'm telling you because I think almost every parent has done some version of all 3 of these. And the fix isn't to make bigger threats. It's to make the ones that you're actually prepared to follow through on. And I really like to fit the punishment to the crime. So let's say you have your computer, but I'm going to set it up so that you can only access homework sites. Or you can have your phone, but I'm going to set it up so you can only like contact people for a little while. So I'm not taking everything away, but I am fitting the punishment to the crime. You're spending too much time on Instagram. I'm going to take Instagram away. Things like that. So you're not going full nuclear, taking all of the technology, but you are fitting the punishment to the crime. Okay, so now that I've walked you through 6 ways that I have gotten this wrong, even if I knew better, I'm not telling you this to make you feel like a bad parent, and I'm definitely not telling you this to make myself look bad. I'm telling you this because these aren't random, isolated failures. They're patterns, and patterns are fixable. So here's what I would actually do differently, one thing per bucket. So for the knowledge gap, put a tech settings review on your calendar right now. Quarterly is enough. Treat it like a dentist appointment. It doesn't happen if it's not scheduled, right? That vacation setting situation, a calendar reminder fixes that entirely. For the exhaustion trap, pick one non-negotiable and actually protect it. You can't win every tech battle, but don't let the path of least resistance in a tired moment quietly become the permanent rule. Decide in advance which ones matter most and build the habit around those specific ones. And for the commitment trap, only make promises and threats you're prepared to keep. Underpromise on both. When you do follow through, it means something. And if you make a promise that you need to walk back, have that conversation. I said this, and I'm changing my mind. Here's why. And that works like even after the fact, after you've given them access to something, you've given them a phone, and then you've decided actually they're not ready for a phone. You can put that on yourself and say, I made a mistake. This isn't what it should be. So I'm going to walk back that, and just put it on yourself for giving them something that they weren't ready for. And honestly, that's not breaking trust. Done right, it's actually modeling something really important for your kid. I knew better on almost all of these. I still made the mistakes. It doesn't make me a bad parent, and it doesn't make you one either. It makes us human. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is being a little more intentional tomorrow than you were yesterday. And that's one reason I actually don't like setting New Year's resolutions. And that's because they fail. And when they fail, then you feel like a failure. I always like resetting my goals every month, every week, every day. If I fail today, it just gives me an opportunity to do better tomorrow. Where I really mirror this is in streaks. I am obsessed with app streaks. So I'll have like a reading streak in Kindle, a Wordle streak, things like that. And if I fail one day, I forget to read, I forget to do my Wordle, or I fail the Wordle, it can kind of ruin my whole day because my streak is broken. But then I just tell myself, well, tomorrow I start a new streak. And so we're going to start building up and try and beat the last time. So let's say my streak last time was 10 days in a row. Okay, so this time I'm going to try and make it to 11 days and then just go from there. So every day is basically a renewal of your commitments and your responsibilities, so you can start fresh every single day, every single week, every single month, every single year. So if something in this video resonated with you, share it with a parent who needs to hear it, because I think a lot of us are carrying these tech regrets quietly, and it helps to know that you're not alone in it, even compared to a tech expert. I would love it if you subscribed and gave this video a like. And hit that notification bell so you find out next time I have something for you. Now, a lot of the tech content out there is designed to scare you. And honestly, fear works. It gets clicks, it gets shares, but that's not what I'm here to do. I want you to feel confident about the technology in your home, not afraid of it. So this is Family Tech Powering Down.